the payment details for 3,993,450. However, we do hereby resubmit for your review and advice the amount of Kenya shillings 6,638,747 paid as subsistence was disbursed to technical staff from the county government of Nandi, specifically from the Department of Lands, Water, Physical Planning, Housing and Natural Resources and Climate Change. While the fund does not have employees of its own, it operates with appointed county climate change unit members and regularly requests support from relevant department staff to carry out its activities. The payment of Kenya shillings 980,989 paid as legal fees has been annexed herein for your review and advice. The annexures is Annexure 2, the supporting payments for Kenya shilling 3.9 and 6.6, and the 980,000. Thank you, Chair.
Very well. Auditor, what is your comment on that response?
Chair, we feel that the issue to us it's proper, apart from the advice on this legal matter, the legal fee that is supposed to be given advice on.
So you have no problem with the other amounts which have been paid?
Yeah, Chair,
but only the legal amount.
The vouchers have been provided, and the variance between employee costs is explained that they are using the county staff to do some of these activities for the fund. Chair.
Okay, so honorable members,
can I something?
You can proceed.
Governor, I thought this Senate passed the County Attorney Act in place. In all of this 6.6, you have said you are using the county staff, but you went ahead and paid 980,980 as legal fees. I thought the reason we passed as a house the County Attorney Act, I think of 2020, was to ensure you don't have to spend a lot of money on legal fees by outsourcing. What was the justification to get outside legal law firm as opposed to your in-house advocate? Is there a justification to this? Yet on other issues you have used your own staff, the county staff, to do this job.
Yes, that's the only amount which the auditor is contesting. But he seems not to be having a problem with the other amounts, only that one. But the only problem again here is late submission of documents. Why these documents were not, the vouchers were not available at the time of audit. So, Governor, you can proceed.
With regard to the legal service that was procured here was to do the climate change regulations for the Climate Change Act. This is fairly technical. We did not have that capacity internally, and that is why we ended up sourcing for the legal for that legal service. And that explains in many other areas we do not outsource. On this one, it was technically we didn't have that technical expertise within the county, and that is why we did the outsourcing. In terms, of course, then the question of late submission is that challenge that runs across, which we have to address.
Chair, Governor, through the chair, I thought even if you don't have that expertise, the spending under PMFAC and I think OAG is the justification. Where is the attachment to justification proving that you didn't have in-house advocates who are experts in climate matters? Is there a justification? Is there minutes? Is there any documents that shows that the reason you went for an outside advocates contravening the County Attorney Act of 2020 of the Senate, this as the justification. And whether this law firm is known in Kenya as experts in issues of climate change.
That was not asked by the auditor, but we can provide. If that is a request by this committee, we can provide.
I thought, Governor, it's not even asking. That is why Article 229 allow us to consider audit reports. We are allowed to ask further questions to probe. The only concern to the OAG, because I think in my own thinking, I'm not the auditor in this case, was that they needed something like a justification to rely on. And I hope this law firm is an expert in terms of climate matters. So that was my only confirm before the justification of spending of 989. But Chair, if the Governor will provide the documents, then we'll look at the report writing. Stage, if the justification will be provided. I yield back.
So, Governor, you can provide the justification to the auditor for verification in 7 days. And then the auditor, you submit the same to us. So, honorable members, let's proceed to Facility Improvement Fund. Auditor, you can quickly take us through the report and you can highlight the key issues that you recommend. Auditor, proceed.
Thank you, Chair. A report of the Auditor General on Nandi County Facilities Improvement Fund for the year ended 30th June 2025. Chair, this report had 10 paragraphs. One audit issue was addressed, 3 are not addressed, and 6 are partially addressed. And Chair, when I say partially addressed, because I know this committee does not have, they don't look at the document. I look the document for them. So fairly, it's just a fair statement. It's not a conclusive that I'm clearing any audit query. And to begin with, irregular expensing of assets. Chair, this one, the auditor feels that we keep on monitoring in the subsequent audit cycle.
So, you keep on monitoring. Is it again an accountant's competence issue? What is it?
Yes, Chair. It's under basis for qualification, and that's all about accountancy.
Chair,
Yes.
the gentleman speaking to you, is it Kachanja or what was it?
Yes, yes,
Mark.
yes, yes.
What is your friend saying? Because in his audit, he says there was no supporting document. So if you have been given some supporting document, what are you still viewing? Or you want to view once? What are you still viewing? If the county did not give you documents on the for 1,500,000 on National Day celebration, 365 on subscription and professional bodies, if there is a receipt they pay to KUKO, for example, okay, National Union of Nurses, what else do you still keep in view? I thought if they have given you a receipt to show this was expended, why should we give in view something that is closed shop? Mark?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The substantive query was that, however, supporting documents were not provided for review The management did not explain whether these amounts were budgeted for and approved. So, Chair, this has not subsequently been provided. However, we can only amend or maybe capture this in our subsequent financial statements to confirm as prior year audit issues. I think that's what the auditor is indicating, that the query as is stands, but since as coming to this meeting they have now provided these supporting documents, we've been able to verify them, and that's the reason why he is indicating that. We can only do that. Yes, Chair.
You have the supporting documents.
Yes, Chair. They have not been provided.
And the budget of that year. I thought when warranty has been signed by the governor and approved and filed by the county assembly, it should be the document that you have already seen.
Yes, the article indicates.
The other, you have supporting documents, but you don't have the issue of budget, whether it was approved.
Chair, he can confirm it was actually budgeted, and the budget is approved, and the evidence has been verified. Chair, thank you.
So why is your colleague saying we keep it in view if these issues you raise in your audit has been addressed?
Because, Chair, he cannot amend the certificate.
Or the
yes, so that only can be done as a prior year audit issue. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, that's a better answer.
Again, is an issue of late submission of documents.
Yes, correct, Chair.
Yeah.
Chair, section 62 is very clear. Why don't you apply as is, not ought to be?
Yeah, because
maybe the wisdom of the committee, you should just apply, because the drafters of that law were intentional. Because if there is late submission of documents, which I agree is a generic problem among many entities, but why don't you go for the harsher penalties in your report writing, so that we don't have, if these documents have been submitted, the governor should have gone for lunch by now. Because if they were there, this matter would have been raised, it would have been proven, then the matter would have rested there. So maybe it's the committee to think about it.
Yeah,
Chair.
And again, the good thing is that we have the bill before us.
Yes.
The public audit bill.
Yes.
I think we need to amend that section to provide that the committee can make an instant action on an issue of late submission of documents.
And in fact, in that public audit which is moved by the majority leader, we need also to give some powers to OAG, because they have to come to the committee. When now committee directs the entity to provide, they now provide. I think the public audit, we must give them some powers on how they can also operate independently. Yeah, as per Article 229.
So the bill is before you, members of this committee and PAC. I think that has been a real challenge to our work and auditors' work. We need to see how we can align it so that we ensure that counties comply to the issue of submission of documents in time. Senator Mbugu?
Auditor, you said correctly that this committee relies on your guidance because you have time to go through the reports. But looking at your summary, you told us that there were 10 issues. 0 addressed, 0 not addressed, 0 partially addressed. So when we retreat to do our report writing, you are going to really confuse us. What was happening?
This template, Chair, we do it in my office. I've been here for the last 3 weeks, and I'm not blaming anyone. My other staff who prepared this document for my review, apparently I reviewed what I have here, which has the correct numbers of queries that are supposed to be in that document.
So are you admitting that the notes you've made to the chair and the committee are misreading?
The notes were not amended. They are as they were after my reviews, but the summary down here, I have 10 queries. 1 is addressed, 3 not addressed, and 6 are partially addressed.
So you are admitting maybe you are confusing the chair, because the chair always goes to the summary of issues.
Chair, I won't say the auditor is also very perfect. I can also make errors. Chair.
So out of the 10 through the chair, which one is addressed? Is it the one we have been discussing through the chair? Because what we have here is an unaddressed. Is it an unaddressed? It is unaddressed.
Chair, I have under report on effectiveness of internal control, risk management and governance, paragraph 3, failure to develop internal control policy documents.
Okay. So that is the only one that is addressed for.
Yes, Chair.
Okay, Chair, you can go to the
So
second one.
maybe because of time, the auditor, I just want you to take us through the queries which are not addressed very quickly and summarize the issues so that we can save on time. For example, the next issue was unconfirmed utilization of funds transferred to...
Can I request we go through this one? Even if it is the only one we'll go through.
Which one?
I'll yield number 2.
Number 2
confirm.
is unconfirmed utilization of funds transferred to
For budget
health.
Control and performance, it's okay. Those are generic
Yeah.
prior year matters.
So
And
the-
submission of financial statements.
Yeah,
can go
the
through
submission
that.
of financial statement, I think this one, we will, it is also tied to the late submission of documents.
And competency.
Yeah, so we will have it addressed through a recommendation. And then contradiction between county government and national government facility improvement funds act. This one I think we'll discuss it in passing because it is a problem in many counties. The legal will guide us in that. And then employee costs, we can go through that. A report on this one, you've said it is addressed. We look at how it is addressed in our report writing. And then failure to develop internal control documents. That one, for the purpose of saving time, we can leave it. So we are going to look at unconfirmed utilization of funds, and then we finish up with the issue of employee cost. So auditor, please, very quickly because of time.
And then, Chair, I would request so that we don't need to come back. This non-submission of financial statements for audit, I think it boils back to the competence that we have discussed. Because who is in charge of this fund? Is he still the same gentleman, Governor? In charge of this FIF fund?
Maybe, Chair, I can handle that.
Yes.
It's unconfirmed. This paragraph 2 that we are supposed to discuss, these are funds that were dispersed to health facilities, and the same health facilities did not submit financial statements.
So it's tied.
It's tied together.
So maybe with your indulgence, Chair, Governor, who is in charge of this fund? Who signed the financial statement? Is he here with us?
Yes, he is here.
Oh, maybe you can go on record. Maybe you indicate your iceberg number and the name. Is it the same gentleman? You can stand and indicate who you are.
Chair, I'm CPA Julius Kemboi, iceberg number 30025.
30025, clerk check.
02530. Maybe CPA Julius Kemboi. Are you aware that financial statement should be submitted for the audit?
I'm aware, Chairman.
What happened at this instance? To the chair?
Chairman, these were facilities which were still under classification 3A, meaning their dispensaries and their centers, which at the time of audit were not actually supposed to provide financial statements. But of course we have provided what these facilities were doing. if you can see the annexures.
Governor, I thought Cherargei Sub-County Hospital and Kabiet Sub-County Hospital are level 4.
They are now level 4, but previously they were not.
Which year were they given level 4 status?
Last year.
So OAG before, sorry for the taking some time. OAG, then what did it give you the strength to demand for the financial statement, yet they were not classified as level 4?
Chair, this comes up because currently we are required to even audit level 2 hospitals. And when we said that we didn't audit level 3s, then it didn't go well with us.
Is your colleague, the CPA, aware that you do from level 2?
I think the constitution is very clear,
yes,
that where public money is being spent.
I think that's one of the strong statements you have made today.
Level 2 and level 3, only that this committee will only look at level 4. And
So maybe, Chair, the fund manager, so in short, you are not aware that level 2, 3, and any public money as per Article 229 should not be audited?
Chair, I was aware that level 4 were only to be audited.
Okay.
So that was our position, that we only provided for level 4.
Governor, do you normally take your staff for training and capacity building?
Of course, yes.
So on this one, he was just negligent. He didn't care.
The training is on various things.
But
Different
specifically on the issues of finance,
I can't tell often whether
maybe
we have
your
trained them on this one.
finance can say something through the chair.
I think he had said that before you came.
So which means they have been trained, but they are
And
ignoring
what he
their role.
said is that they are now in the process of ensuring there is an improvement in capacity building.
But they said it last time.
And yeah, that's what I asked him.
Yes.
Number 2, they are using Excel. And if you look at this, there is a query in this report on use of Excel. They are using Excel for spreadsheet for accounting, but now they are going to acquire an accounting system to be managing this.
Chair, with your indulgence, maybe do we have the constitution here? Maybe the clerk can read for us. You know, we can also learn, all of us. Maybe as he looks for that section. Finally, Chair, on this issue of Kaptumo, Cherargei, and Kabiet sub-county hospitals. So, Governor, they have now been classified to level 4. Maybe on top of this utilization of funds, and you'll give me indulgence, Chair, because on Friday I visited Kipsamoite dispensary, and on Saturday, when the unfortunate event happened, I was in Cherargei sub-county hospital. So my only follow-up to the governor, because I went there like 3 days ago, when you look at the template of universal health coverage, there are conditions that have to be fulfilled for an hospital to be level 4. Governor, what gave you the comfort to give Cherargei to be level 4, yet the requirements, for example, one of them is should have a 500 beds capacity, which is not the case in Cherargei. What gave you the comfort? And number 2, the building that you are doing there is yet to be complete or assigned for the functionality. And finally, Chair, because even Governor, unfortunately, when I was in that hospital on Saturday around afternoon, there was no electricity. It was dark. And the generator was dysfunctional. And I'm told your county engineer has yet to report for the last a couple of days for it. So which means you could not do emergency services in Cherargei because there is no power, there is no electricity. Secondly, on Kipsamoite, I know your people might not tell you this, is that there is no water because the sensor that is supposed to use to pump water has been broken out for some time.
It's good that we go systematically. We are here for specific.
I told Governor Yuada, I said I request the indulgence of God because it goes back to utilization of resources.
But Kipsamoite is not here.
No, I'm just
we are
asking.
discussing.
You
So
know, you also need to be.
we even have constraints of time, and
Okay.
No, you are not supposed to
organized.
decide on time, Governor.
yeah.
You are not supposed to decide on time. It is the
So
committee.
you have asked, can I respond?
I'm just finishing up. That is why I thought it should come within your knowledge, to be fair.
Let me respond. You have
No.
asked.
I don't want
Can I
it to be
finish
like,
through the chair? But I was asking a genuine question, which you should just relax and
I
answer.
don't,
just respond.
I don't want
You
it
have
to be
already
like
asked.
an exchange between two of you.
Yeah.
Chair, if I didn't exchange, I was just asking a follow-up question, which is, I was asking, for example, in Kipsamoite, which is still his role, that why is the water cells are not functioning for the hospital to have water? Because we want service for our people. Number two, on Cherargei, the generator has been dysfunctional. I was there was no light. So the governor should either have said it is within his knowledge.
Why don't you allow me to answer? Why are you answering for me? You can't
No,
ask
I'm
and
not,
answer.
I'm
Please,
not
just allow
answering
me
for
to
you.
answer.
It is the chair who is asking.
Okay.
Governor, why are
Now
you restless?
let the governor respond.
Yeah.
You know this query you are referring to, non-submission of financial statement for audit for the 3 hospitals that didn't submit. It is also the second query.
That is what
It's
I
all the
was
same
saying.
thing. So maybe the governor can respond so that we save on time, combining the 2 queries.
Yes,
So the
that is what I
response
was
the same.
doing. I was just doing a follow-up question.
You can
Because-
respond to that, and then now those other additional issues he has raised, you can comment on them as well.
But one of the issues I'm asking is about Cherargei, which is part of the issue here.
Okay, proceed, Governor.
So, with regard to Cherargei, I mean, and Senator, that was, if you are there on Saturday, there is no problem. You don't need to wait for the committee to ask. When you find an issue in an hospital, you can share. I mean, you can share with any of us, and it's a matter that have been, can be addressed immediately. Now that you have mentioned to me, I will follow up to find out why. If that has not been fixed, it can be fixed. But had you mentioned to me when we were with you on Saturday evening, had you mentioned, most likely
But Governor, we were morning. How could we discuss
But just
we
a
were
mention.
serious in the morning. How can I bring issues?
I agree. I
We were
agree.
morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Proceed.
But
And
no,
the governor was morning.
On
and
that
so I
particular
could not tell him
evening,
anything.
yeah,
He
that
would have
particular
stressed.
evening, all of us were busy calling him.
yes.
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 Because
Yes.
And you know, governor was mourning more than me. I couldn't stress him with any other issues. He would have collapsed. So I could not risk.
Yeah, I know. I mean, of course, the honorable member was a good friend of mine. All of us were mourning. But what I'm saying is that really, the issue of Kipsamoite that you have raised, I'm taking it up. The issue of Cherargei, I'm taking it up. The issue of classification, Senator, the body that carries out, the assessments and gives the classification is KMPDC, and they do the assessments. Sometimes they also give you provisional license, asking you to complete 1, 2, 3 over within a particular period of time. That is why they did the assessment, and Kaptumo, Cherargei, and Kabiet have all been certified as level 4 facilities. Of course, there is still work to be done, to increase their capacities and everything, but the certification is done by KMPDC, and we have those certifications, and we are handling them. Again, on our understanding was that the submission of financial statements was being done at level 4 hospitals. That does not mean that since Cherargei, Kaptum, and Kabiet were not level 4 at the time, that no audit was done. We have we have audits that are done by every department. So all those audits for each of those levels are done. We only thought that submissions of these audit reports were being done at level 4. But the goodness is, all these 3 now have already been upgraded as level 4, and moving into the next audit cycle, they are definitely being audited as it were.
Maybe I don't know whether that explanation you gave to the audit, because I've seen Maraba Sub-County Hospital, Kapsabet County Referral Hospital, Mosoria Sub-County Hospital audit reports.
Yeah.
They have flagged the same issue on the status allocation. So I don't know, maybe OAG should tell us what do you need? Because in those Mosoriot, Maraba, Kapsabet County, you have not the issue of universal. You have indicated even variance. For example, Maraba, you have said there is a variance of 426, for example, out of 500, for example. So when you are doing audit and you have heard what the governor has said, Mark, so you still flag again as outstanding issue. What should be the meeting point?
Thank you, Chair.
You don't need to come and query here.
Thank you, Chair. The query on UHC is always standard. The reason being that there is what the standard expects. Now, if a hospital is level 4, there is the number of theatres it should have, the number of specialists it should have. So when that is not met, then we have a duty to report under compliance that this hospital being level 4 should have this kind of standards.
To the client, maybe you are the one on the ground, did the client update you on these aspects of classification in your management response? Because if you just get through,
maybe there we had an opportunity to look at the hospitals, and they had a query on UHC.
Yes.
Compliance to UHC standards.
Correct.
If you look at that query and how they responded,
Yes.
then you know where the gaps are.
But I thought, Chair, since during management with the client, these things, the client will tell them, we have been given by KMPTC to progress to fulfill the requirements of level 4, for example.
Yeah.
Should they not indicate in your audit findings? That is my only concern or my only thinking.
Yes, Chair, they do indicate, but the fact that you do not have an anesthesiologist, for example,
Yes.
that fact remains. So we have to report that there was no such specialist which is expected.
So,
at that
Governor,
level.
maybe your people can assist you, it's real, the CC Finance, on those 3 reports, Maraba, Mosoriot, and Kapsabet. They are flagged as by the standard of UHC. And maybe, I don't know, Chair, because we'll keep flagging that issue. I don't know how long we will, because as the counties comply with the reclassification and the demands of UHC, I don't know how long will it take. Because the OAG are insisting it will be an audit that will remain on their papers. Counties will continue saying, we have been given time to comply. So I don't know, maybe committee, when you table your report, you can advise the House. I yield back, Chair.
Okay, I think that the issue of UHC is an issue that is coming up in every audit report for hospitals. Compliance to UHC standards in terms of equipment and staffing. And it is a matter that we have advised counties to deal with it, especially the issue of staffing, which they are dealing with it individually. But that is in a separate report and not this one. So I think the committee will make specific recommendations when they do their report on that. So I want us to move on to the next query, which is very important, and the time is running out. Members, if you will allow me, we look at the issue of employee cost. And the auditor, just before we go to that, this query, you will update us. You will keep an eye on it and update us, because it is affecting 2 queries. The query on submission of financial statement and the query on unconfirmed transfers, which were unconfirmed because there were no financial statement for those 3 hospitals. So you keep an eye in the next cycle of audit, you will report on that, or you will raise another query if it is not done. Okay. So let's look at the employee cost. Auditor,
Maybe I had requested your clerk to read 229 for the CPA to be aware that any public funds must be audited. Maybe they can go on record if we have the constitution.
Yeah.
Just for record so that they learn.
Thank you, Chair. Quickly, Article 2291 of the Constitution provides that there shall be an Auditor General who shall be nominated by the President and with the approval of the National Assembly appointed by the President. To be qualified to be an Auditor General, a person shall have extensive knowledge of public finance or at least 10 years experience in auditing or public finance management. 3. The Auditor General holds office subject to Article 251 for a term of 8 years and shall not be eligible for reappointment. 4. Within 6 months after the end of each financial year, the Auditor General shall audit and report in respect of that financial year on A. The accounts of the national and county governments. B. The accounts of all funds and authorities of the national and county governments. C. The accounts of all courts. D. The accounts of every commission or independent office established by this constitution. E. The accounts of the National Assembly, the Senate and the county assemblies. F. The accounts of political parties funded from public funds. G. The public debt. H. The accounts of any other entity that legislation requires the Auditor General to audit. Sub-Article 5, the Auditor General may audit and report on the accounts of any entity that is funded from public funds. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, so I think you need to really understand that. So auditor, proceed very quickly. We have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Employee cost. The statement of financial performance reflect employee cost amounting to Kenya shilling 24,832,597 as disclosed in note 11 of the financial statement. However, it was noted that the employee cost had significantly increased from Kenya shillings 540,000 in 2024 to Kenya shilling 24,832,597, with a variance of Kenya shilling 24,292,597. Management explained that the variance arose due to medical staff paid on part-time basis because the county executive had suspended staff in the facility. The reason for suspension and approval to contract part-time employees were not provided for audit review. Further, the fund spent Kenya shillings 24,832,597 at source instead of transferring the fund to individual facilities for use, contrary to Section 3E7 of the Nandi County Facility Improvement Funds Act 2024, which require that 70% of the resources of the fund should be retained within the collecting entities. In the circumstances, management was in breach of the law.
Now your response.
The county government of Nandi conducted staff audit which resulted in rationalization exercise leading to the revocation of employment letters for 1,899 staff, among them those who are offering essential health services. To ensure continuity of services, the management through respective hospital boards engaged a few essential staff, e.g. medical officers, clinical officers and nurses, among others, on local contracts awaiting the employment processed by the County Public Service Board. The salaries and wages resulting from the local contracts were paid centrally from the 30% budget, as the individual hospitals could not afford the hiring cost. The County Public Service Board has since completed the recruitment process and no employee is still being paid from the FIF fund.
Auditor, your comments on the response from management?
Chair, the auditee indicates that they did have their own staff. However, the facilities contracted people on part-time. We wanted to see how these part-time contracts would look like, which we also did not get. And then, according to the query, there was suspension of staff, and approval for part-time contract were not provided for review. Then further, we also looked at where monies collected by facilities were not spent at source.
So in short, what is your overall view about the response. Does it satisfy your query?
Chair, when I looked at this in terms of part-time employees, maybe it was a one-off unique kind of situation, and I would go by saying that we'll keep on monitoring this in the next financial year. And part two of this query about the spending at not spending at source. Now the law requires that facilities, all monies collected by the facilities are retained there and spent at source.
Now that brings me to the other query which we are not looking at, which you had said there is contradiction between county FIF and national FIF, where the county FIF talks about 70% retention and the national one talks about 100% retention. Maybe you can say something about that.
Thank you, Chair. This contradiction arose, I think, arose from the fact that the Nandi County was able to develop their own act earlier than the national FIF act, and therefore they rolled it out and they were using it. And upon the enactment of the national act, then there are this provision that contradicted each other. So during the audit, there are those periods that actually Nandi County has used their own act in operation, and therefore that's the area that is bringing the contradiction.
Okay, honorable members, Senator Mbugu.
Chairman, is just to emphasize to the county that the national law supersedes the county laws. And I think, Governor, it is upon you and the Assembly maybe to make the necessary adjustments so that the two laws align to each other. Otherwise, every year that this query will be raised. And it has been, I remember the CS when you were in a retreat in Naivasha raised this issue. Quite a number of counties have these two laws, and there is need to harmonize them so that we don't have these queries coming up every time.
Senator Cherargei.
Chair, I think on this issue of employees, it is appearing on County Public Accounts Committee, and I think since it's a more substantive in 2024-25, I'll ask further questions at that point because they are intertwined. Chair, maybe looking at the time, it is 2:05 and we are supposed to reconvene at 2:30. Did we in order to request that on emergency fund you can reschedule for another meeting, because I can see 25 minutes before the sitting.
I think the clerk, we had directed you that on a Wednesday we have very limited time. Wednesday we are only allowed to start our meeting from 11, because between 9:30 and about 11 we are required to be in the chamber to give a quorum. So I think there is an anomaly here that we invited Nandi to appear on a Wednesday when we said we need counties with fewer reports to come on a Wednesday. We have 5 heavy reports which we needed more time to go through that. But the clerk is informing me that there are some entities which we have not looked at in Nandi County. I think there is agricultural college, something, which we have not looked at, and because of that, I would recommend that the 2 reports remaining, the report on emergency fund and alcoholic drinks, be combined with those entities. I don't know how many entities there are, Governor. Maybe you can inform the committee.
Chair, we have several entities, but I think I would really want to persuade the committee, the 2 reports, since we've come here with the staff, I don't think that, you can still sacrifice another 20-25 minutes so that we are done with it. Having to bring an entire team of staff here, you know, and then it's doable. I mean, and the reports are like the alcoholic drinks. These are reports that can be done in 5-10 minutes. If I really want to persuade the team, because it takes a lot to get a team at a costly, you know, to bring the team, and the team is here. I want to persuade
so
you.
maybe, Governor, on this issue of FIF,
You have gone to A5 again?
no, the question on employees. So
Yeah.
we were there, we left it there.
Okay.
Under the F5 Act, are there still maybe of your staff that are still paid by through stipend? And is it how much per month? Because the last time I checked, you have a number of staff in health records, clinical officers like 30. For example, in Kapsabet County Referral 45. And how much do you pay per month? And as there staff that are still paid by stipend? And what became of your audit of the staffing, especially now, since in the interest of time, to narrow down to health department only? I yield back, Chair. For the reports, I think on alcoholics, the county can take written response, in my own opinion. The committees also.
Yeah.
Well, that I will give direction on that.
So, with regard, as we speak right now, no staff is being paid on FIF fund. The reason why we were paying that time, and Senator, as you mentioned, when we had the revocation of letters, the people who are engaged are actually the staff who the staff who were affected, and they were in those facilities. So we just provided them using FIF stipend for the period before the regularization of their terms. Now that all of them, that entire process was concluded, nobody is being paid on FIF as we speak right now. And therefore this was a one-off situation that the county found itself, and therefore we are done with that. As regards the conflict between county legislation and FIF and the national legislation, again, this is a matter that we as Council of Governors have even a pending matter in court trying to deal with this situation. We know generally, the law generally is that national legislation supersedes the county legislation, but whereas in a matter that is squarely, the function is squarely within county government, you know, contention arises as to whether that is, you know, how that should be handled. And more particularly, the rollout of the FIF, county FIF, we had already started rolling out on it. We have now started the process, you know, and we were really hoping that, you know, some bit of guidance also from the Senate would be useful. The initial indication we got was that the FIF law, national law, did not actually come through the Senate. If that were the case, then there would be an issue, you know, as to the validity and legality of that legislation if it did not go through this House. But maybe, Chair, the request that we would have is that this is a matter that you may want to give a general recommendation to all of us, because I'm sure it affects quite a number of counties, so that then we achieve some level of uniformity on this.
Okay, I think on the issue of the two acts, it's something that we'll discuss internally and give a uniform recommendation to all the counties. I just wanted to direct that since we have two reports remaining, and the Governor, I want to agree with you that you've traveled all the way to come with your staff. It will not be proper for us to finalize on this. But again, I also want you to understand the situation we are in. I know in COG you complained that this committee invites you many times. We invite you many times because there are so many funds in counties, there are so many entities. So we can only cover 4 reports in one meeting. When they go beyond 4, it becomes a problem to us. We are now forced to invite you again. But what I will direct is that when I look at the report on emergency, the issues are repetitive that are in the other reports. For example, the issue of balance, budget control and performance. It's appearing, and you know, in the first report, Education Fund, we had said that CEC, your budgeting must be realistic. Your budgeting processes, and you can see it's appearing in almost every fund. The same appears even in alcoholic. Then in emergency, there are, just a moment, Senator, there are issues of compliance, your financial statements. You remember we discussed that issue. The presentation of your financial statements is not complying to the standards. That Bwana CEC is an issue that we have discussed. Issues of competence of your financial statements. There is issues of unresolved prior year matters, which also contains the issue of accuracy of financial statements. So you can see that appears there. Delayed transfer of receipts from the county government, which also applies to budget control and performance. So really, these are issues that we have gone through. We will pick the written responses, but you can see a pattern. The issues in these funds are similar. Issues of competence in financial statements, issues of budgetary control, and issues of underfunding from the county executive. So I just wanted to highlight that so that members, you know, that even as we receive the written responses, the issues contained here are similar to what we have just been discussing. Now, the Alcoholic Drinks Control Fund, again, budget control and performance issues. We have but there are other substantive issues that the auditor has raised, which are outstanding for long, and lack of a substantive board. Maybe that governor will need to comment on that. It is now recurring for the second year. And then, of course, issues of accountants are also appearing. Lack of a trial balance. Yeah, so maybe I just need quick comments from...
Can I add?
Yes.
Maybe on emergency, the CEC should tell us that under the law, it should be at least not more than 2% of the budget should go to emergency services. Maybe you can tell us the budgeting and the proposal, because the emergency is very clear, Chair, that should be at least be 2% share. And then on the disaster management plan, whether the governor, CCM and the county assembly have passed this plan that has been provided as disaster management plan. Finally, Chair, since I was not there when you were considering budget, maybe I can say not budget, bursary. I've looked at the document, maybe governor can answer now or the committee can note it, is that I've looked at Annex 1. I know we had gone through this. Out of what the OAG queried was 79 million, but what we have here is 64 million. So I wanted to know that discrepancy. In the report, when I went through, there was one person who was written a check of 275,000. Whether that was one person or a number of them, if that clarity of the two issues can be given. I know maybe governor has touched on it, but the committee can note that so that when you are writing the report, I really want to know on those two basic issues. But on disaster management plan, whether this has been adopted by your cabinet and whether the county assembly participated, and on the issue of 2% allocation under disaster. Chair, that would be my two questions, because I can see time is far much spent.
Okay, I think
Maybe, Governor, just a small one. Among these staff are there staff who are in health department that are in court? Maybe you can just mention. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so I think, Governor, we have adopted the recommendation that we are going to take written responses, but maybe you can just highlight on the issues that Senator Cherargei has raised, and for alcoholic, you tell us about the position of the board.
Chair, on yes, on the matter within, we had clarified the one for 250,000 that was one check for several students, and for the comfort of the Senate, I think as part of the additional documentation that we had agreed to provide, we can provide that list of the beneficiaries under the 250. Senator has also, the CEC will respond to the issue of the emergency fund, the percentage and the allocation. The disaster plan has been approved by the cabinet. That was approved by the cabinet. The staff within who are in court, yes, we have a number of staff who are from the health department who are part of the staff who are in court, and the matter is still pending in court. Let me allow the CEC to respond to this one on.
Thank you, Chair. Through the Governor, our emergency is at least 0.5% of the budget is what we need to finance or to fund the fund. Of course, it can go higher depending on emerging issues, but on the minimum is 0.5% of the budget.
And Chair, on that issue of the Alcoholic Drinks Act, the first act did not provide for a board. The act that has been in operation did not provide for a board, but the current act that was approved by the Assembly and assented to by the Governor has a board, and therefore, and I actually assented to it about a month ago. So we are now in the process of implementing it and constituting the board. So that board will be there.
So I think, as I said, we will adopt the written responses. On the issue of the 15 million, we had directed that
yes,
you submit the acknowledgements to the auditor for verification, and then auditor will submit to the committee in, did I say 7 days? Yeah, so that will confirm the 15 million. The 64 million was confirmed by the audit. So what remains is the 15 million to make it 79 million.
So, Chair, if you have given a ruling on the 15 million, then it's okay. But I hope before you table your report, those acknowledgements of 15 million should have been provided for.
Yeah.
And maybe as a take-home, I don't know, the OAG, Governor has said there were several students that receive a check of 275,000. Is it allowed? How do you audit? I thought the check is signed to the bearer.
Chair, we don't direct management on what they intend to do. However, for accounting purposes, they need to account for those amounts effectively.
So I can write a check for 67 senators?
Yeah, Chair, so long as you account, because you can do it for 67 senators who will eventually have individual receipts that they've now received to come and account individually.
So that should have been the basis even on the other 15 million bursary disbursement. The individual acknowledgement of the receipts by the institutions and the students.
Yes, Chair.
So, honorable members, I think now we adjourn. We have 5 minutes to go have lunch and run to the chamber. So even we are not having closing remarks.